All right, we live. All right. So, you back, another Sunday school. Let's go and start off with the prayer. 5 on the left, 2 on the right, feet at a 45, facing the east. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my God, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Ameen. Ameen. All right. Islam. So, as you know, Nagi ill. We back at it again. Not the first time, but a little bit after a long time. Let me zoom it in a little bit, but we back. All right, so let's get through these one-on-ones, and then we're gonna get into it. All right. Got a lot of updates today, so y'all stay tuned, or you can skip forward, what have you. But we're gonna go through it. So, Quran question for Moorish children. Number 1, who made you? Allah. Number 2, who is Allah? Allah is the Father of the universe. 3, can we see him? No. 4, where's the nearest place we can meet him? Answer, in the heart. 5, who is Noble Drew Ali? Answer, he is Allah's prophet. 6, what is a prophet? A prophet is a thought of Allah manifest in flesh. 7, what is the duty of a prophet? Answer, to save nations from the wrath of Allah. 8, who is the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America? Answer, Noble Drew Ali. 9, what year was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded? 1913 AD. 10, where? Answer, Newark, New Jersey. 11, where was Noble Drew Ali born? Answer, in the state of North Carolina, 1886. 12, what is his nationality? Moorish American. 13, what is your nationality? Answer, Moorish American. 14, why are we Moorish Americans? Answer, because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. 15, for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded? Answer, for the uplifting of fallen humanity. Right? Which, right now we seem to be in a period where the mission is ever so more, needed in terms of upliftment and guidance and direction than we ever needed it before. So let's keep it going. All right. 16, how did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? By teaching them to be themselves. 17, what is our religion? Islamism. 18, is that a new or is that the old time religion? Answer, old time religion. 19, what kind of flag is the Moorish? Answer, it is a red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center. 20, what do the 5 points represent? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. All right. And keep in mind, these are the 5 pillars or the 5 principles that we live by as Moors. All right. So again, 20, what do the 5 points represent? We're talking about the 5 points on the Moorish flag. Represents love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. 21, how old is our flag? Answer, it is over 10,000 years old. 22, which is our holy day? Answer, Friday. 23, why? Because Friday is the day on which man was formed in flesh, and it was on Friday when he departed out of flesh. 24, who was Jesus? Answer, he was a prophet of Allah. 25, where was he born? Answer, in Bethlehem of Judah, in the house of David. 26, who were his father and mother? Answer, Joseph and Mary, or Joseph and Mary. 27, will you give in brief the line genealogy through which Jesus came? Some of the great fathers through which Jesus came are Abraham, Boaz by Ruth, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph by Mary. 28, why did Allah send Jesus to this earth? Answer, to save the Israelites from the iron hand oppression of the pale-skinned nations of Europe who were governing a portion of Palestine at that time. 29, how long has that been? Answer, about 2,000 years ago. 30, what was the nationality of Ruth? Answer, Ruth was a Moabitess. 31, what is the modern name for the Moabites? Answer, Moroccans. 32, where is the Moroccan Empire? Answer, Northwest Amexem. 33, what is the modern name for Amexem? Answer, Africa. 34, what is the title given to our ruler in Morocco? Answer, Sultan. 35, where do we get the name Jesus? Answer, from the East. 36, what does the name Jesus mean? Jesus means justice. 37, did the angel give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name? Answer, yes, but it cannot be used by those who are slaves to sin. 38, what is an angel? An angel is a thought of Allah manifested in human flesh. 39, what are angels used for? To carry messages to the four corners of the world to all nations. 40, what is our prophet to us? He is an angel of Allah who is sent to us to bring us, the everlasting gospel of Allah. 41, what is the everlasting gospel? Answer, it is a saving power that comes from Allah through our ancient fathers by his prophet. 42, what is the covenant of the great God Allah? Answer, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earthland, which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee. 43, at what age did Jesus begin to teach? At the age of 12. 44, where did he teach? Answer, India, Africa, and Europe. 45, how long did he teach? Answer, 18 years. 46, what did Jesus say that would make you free? Answer, truth. 47, what is truth? Truth is art. What is art? Art is Allah. Can truth change? Answer, truth cannot change or pass away. 50, what other name do we give to truth? Answer, holy breath. 51, what have you to say about the holy breath? All we can say is, it is great, it is good, it was, it is, and evermore to be. Ameen. 52, at what place on earth was the physical part of man formed? Answer, in the Garden of Eden. 53, where is the Garden of Eden? Answer, in the land of Canaan, in the city of Mecca. 54, what is the modern name for the Garden of Eden? Mecca. All right, 55, what is the name of the first physical man? His name cannot be used only by executive rulers of the AC of the MST of A. 56, what are the words of AC in the MST of A? Attic chamber of the Moorish Temple of America, third heaven. 57, who were Adam and Eve? They are the mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims. 58, where did they go? They went into Asia. 59, what is the modern name given to their children? Answer, Asiatics. 60, who is guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away? Answer, angels. 61, what is the modern name for those angels? Asiatics. 62, what is the shade of their skin? Answer, olive. 63, are the Moorish Americans any relation to those angels? Answer, yes. We all have the same father and mother. 64, give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve. Answer, Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. 65, what is the devil sometimes called? Answer, the lower self. 66, how many cells are there? Answer, 2. 67, name them, higher self and lower self. 68, what people represent the higher self? Answer, the angels who protect the holy city of Mecca. 69, what people represent the lower self? Answer, those who were cast out of the holy city and those who accept their teaching. 70, what is the higher self? The higher self is the mother of the virtues and the harmonies of life and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. 71, can the higher self pass away? Answer, no. 72, why? Answer, because it is Allah in man. 73, what does the lower self breed? Answer, hatred, slander, lewdness, murders, theft, and everything that harms. 74, what did the higher self say to the lower self at one time when he met him? Answer, where are you going, Satan? 75, What was the answer that the lower self gave to the higher self? Answer, I am going to and fro the earth, seeking whom I may devour. 76. Has he finished his task of devouring? Answer, yes. 77. When was his time declared out? Answer, when he nailed Jesus on the cross. 78. What are the last words Jesus uttered? Answer, it is finished. 79. What did he have reference to? Answer, he had reference to the end of Satan. 80. Did Jesus say that he would return to conquer him? Answer, yes. 81. What is the name of the person into whom Jesus was first reincarnated? Answer, Prophet Muhammad, the conqueror. 82. Was Satan to be bound then? Answer, Satan was to be bound in part. 83. When was the head of Satan taken off? Answer, 1453 Byzantine. 84. By whom? Answer, by Muhammad. 85. Name some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of Northwest by the European nations in 1774. Answer, Negro, black, colored, and Ethiopia or Ethiopian. 86. What is meant by the word Negro? Answer, Negro is a name given to a river in West Africa by the Moors because it contains black water. 87. What is meant by the word black? Black, according to science, means death. 88. What does the word colored mean? Answer, colored means anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. 89. What does Ethiopia mean? Ethiopia means something divided. 90. Can a man be a Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian? Answer, no. 91. Why? Because man is made in the image and after the likeness of God, Allah. 92. What title does Satan give himself? Answer, God. 93. Will you define the word white? Answer, white means purity, purity means God, and God means the ruler of the land. 94. To whom do we refer to at times as being the great God? Answer, Allah. 95. Is the devil made in the image and likeness of Allah? Answer, no. He is the shadow of our lower selves and will pass away. 96. Who made the devil? Answer, Elohim. 97. Who is Elohim? Elohim is the 7 creative spirits that created everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be. 98. What is Elohim sometimes called? Answer, the 7 eyes of Allah. 99. How many days are in the circle? 7 days. 100. How many days are in a creation? Answer, 7 days. 101. According to science, how many days are in a year? Answer, 7 days. Islam. And if you develop a understanding and overstanding of these lessons and words, then we are able to, you know what I mean, develop unity moving forward. All right, so that's the one-on-ones. And yeah, we're gonna keep it moving, keep the pace going. Let me take a pause for the cause, get this light together so we can get back to it. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're gonna zoom it in. All right, we back. So yeah, I think that's a lot better. You know what I mean? You can see me now. Man, so what we gonna get into today? So just a little bit of updates and stuff, man. Violet Obsidian is live for all those who don't know. We got a new website, we got a new space. This is it's gonna be a space for a lot of things. Of course, you know, we still doing nationality and birthrights. Still, you know, educational, still gonna be teaching. But this is gonna be our private space to be able to, you know, build and demonstrate from, among other things, right? So definitely check us out. You know what I mean? Come see what I got going on in there and, you know, tap in. We got a lot of stuff planned for the site right now. But it takes a village, you know what I mean? So definitely check me out, violetobsidian.com. Of course, we still got Regency, Alabama. .org right now. Yeah, man. And it's a lot of different developments if you've been peeping. My other pages on IG, Wrecked Out Media, you know what I mean? We going up. Yeah, I think I'm gonna hold on to the rest of it till y'all, pay attention. But check me out, you know what I mean? Yeah. We're gonna keep it moving. All right. So I know it's been a minute, but we got a lot of people that's been reaching out. One brother in particular, man, we definitely gonna be seeing more of and linking with, but I wanted to make sure that we got some things covered today since it was specially requested, you know what I mean? So let's go through and read some of this literature first, and then, we're gonna have a little bit more discussion and we just kind of go from there. All right. Now this is coming from Oral Statements and Prophecies of Noble Drew Ali, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali. All right. And just for reference, right, when we was reading in the one-on-ones, let me reference the actual section. So, all right. So 20, what do the 5 points represent? Love, true peace, freedom, and justice, right? If you look right here, we got it, love, true peace, freedom, and justice, right? That's what the 5 points represent, okay? So getting right into it, I'm on page 7, forced to make changes, right? So this is an excerpt from the Moorish Guide, published Friday, September 1928 by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. It is not unusual for a newspaper to make its debut in the city of Chicago. The past years have seen many such come and many such go. The Moorish Guide, taking its initial bow to the public, knows not what the future awaits it. But throwing its efforts on the sides of right, reason, and tolerance, we hope that we might make the grade. The Moorish Guide enters the field of journalism with malice toward none and charity to all. It is not our purpose to disregard the work of other splendid journals. It is not our purpose to fail to give due attention and space to all American citizens, individuals and organizations alike, who are working in their chosen fields of endeavor for the progress and development of all American citizens and all American institutions. We hope to cooperate with them in the intensive and grueling battle for universal justice. The Moorish Guide feels that the greatest weapon in the hands of our group today in America is our press. The truth will never be told about a disadvantaged minority by the general press of any country, whether that minority be racial, political, or religious. Unless we express ourselves through papers of our own, the truth about us will not be told. Many of our accomplishments, many of the beautiful things, many of the hopeful things and events which mark the progress of our group will go unrecorded, were it not for papers of our own. Our papers are our only hope of shoveling ourselves out from under the avalanche of lies that are annually let loose upon us. A strong free press is the best possible safeguard of liberties in general promotion and defense of the interest of strong free people. Islam. So with that being said, we have to get into a mode of presenting our stories, right? We got First Eye, all right? First Eye News, which, we're going to be expanding that and keeping that going, but we need writers, okay? We need, eyes and ears on the ground. We need correspondence, okay? So as we grow and as we move forward, you know what I mean? If you seeing this is a call to action, all right? If you know that you got a background in journalism or you got, writing capabilities, if you know that you can punch up a story and be actual factual with it and know how to, bring in your sources, then let's talk. You know what I mean? Let's get this thing going. Because as we move forward, like I said, there's a lot of things, a lot of parts and positions that we need to be filled, okay? But at this point, everything that I'm doing is nation business. Okay? Everything I'm doing is nation building at this point. So we're not lollygagging, we're not backtracking, we're not, you know what I mean, regressing. We're moving forward. All right? And for all those who are ready, you know what I mean, all those who got the eyes to see and the ears to hear that's ready to get really active, this is the time and this is the moment, right? If you're watching this and you haven't been to Violet Obsidian, go to Violet Obsidian, you know what I mean, tap in. Go on and sign up. Let's get this thing moving. If you haven't checked out the Discord, you know what I mean, join the Discord for the founders group. Because that's how this thing is moving forward. All right. So you know, when we talk about this thing called knowledge of self, right? Realize, like we were talking about in the one-on-ones, there's two selves. There's the higher self and the lower self, right? Just to keep it funky, most folks stuck in their lower self. They're stuck on those lower three chakras in terms of how they live, how they move, how they operate. But once you start vibrating higher and operating on different levels, right, you can raise your vibration and start to operate from the other chakras, right? Once you get to the heart chakra, that's when all the rest of the higher chakras are able to unlock and, you know, reveal certain things to you, and then you can really tap in. But you have to get over your lower self. And when I say get over, I don't mean like, you know, cheat yourself or, you know, try to slime yourself out. But I'm saying, like, release yourself of said ego, you know, because the lower self oftentimes is trapped by that. And it's like when you start trying to operate and do things in a new level, at a new light, you have the little voice in your head, or, you know, that little bit of ego talking to you, telling you, oh, no, you can't do that, or, oh, no, you know, you're supposed to be like this and whatnot. And ultimately, all it's doing is trapping and tricking you into playing yourself out of growth at the end of the day. Because man's business is about reflection. So if you're not changing, and if you're not, you know, taking time to reflect on what has happened and what has transpired and trying to grow from that, then you're missing a prime opportunity just in life. Okay. Let me not say okay, but all right. Right. Because we're not about to overkill. We're not trying to, you know, send nobody out of their misery. But we really gotta tap into some of these things and get some of these concepts cleared up. So let me find some things we could talk about, or I could read from, unless, you know what I mean, something else hit me. But I really just want to kind of cover some bases on some basic information, because it seems like, you know, folks keep missing it. They just keep missing the mark for whatever reason, right? So let's tap into some things so we can get some basics. Because I think once y'all get some of these basics in line, everything else should make sense. You know what I mean? Like, it really should. So coming out of Wardship Dispeller, all right, it's back to basics. 3rd grade. So back to basics, high elementary science, youth degree 3. All right. And I'm on page 11 right now. So if anybody's seen, you know, the Zodiacus video and whatnot, let me read through some of this, right? So that y'all can kind of make sense of, you know, where I'm going and what I'm talking about. All right. So pedagogus. So now we back up on page 10, right? The preservation of these learned natural phenomena, principles, for the benefit of our offspring was the impetus of pedagogics. I'm gonna edit that. Pedagogics. Let me read it again. The preservation of these learned natural phenomena, principles, for the benefit of our offspring was the impetus of pedagogics. This is the plural, pardon me, of pedagogy, the art of teaching and educating. Thus, our ancient mothers and fathers also referred to their trained instructors, teachers and trainers as pedagogues, from the old Moorish Latin word pedagogus. In these days, we refer to pedagogues as teachers and attribute to an institution or institutions established for pedagogy as university and universities. University is derived from the old Moorish Latin word universitas, meaning the whole, from universe. Thus, in studying history, law, grammatication, and the philosophies, and other disciplines and sciences of high culture, we acknowledge them as being companions to civilization. We can furthermore see and relate to that strong philology character which marks ancient Moabite/Moorish societies, and note the powerful influences that Moors have had on other societies. From this, we derive a greater appreciation for the sciences of the ancient Moabites/Canaanites and reason they're impacting and encompassing high culture as being applicable cosmology. Cosmology and cosmos are synonymous with universe, or synonymous with universe, and the holistic study of all existing things, including the earth, the heavens, the galaxies, and all therein, regarded as a whole. That high culture, which uplifted the ancient ones to their prominent place in history, is referred to in these modern days as Moorish science. Moorish science can be summed up as cosmography, being the study of the constitution of nature and a description of the world or universe. The task now lying before us, the fallen descendants of those ancient ones, certainly must include such concerted activities, instructions, studies, and teachings, which are directive of getting us back to those high culture building basics, and thus a resurgence of a more civilized and humane society. The mischief of dogmatic miseducation must be exposed, and the dragon of ignorance must be removed from prominence in society in order for humanity to prosper and to live. All right. Hold on 1 second. Let me get this together because the battery about to die. 1 second. All right, we back. So y'all pay attention. This is what I really was trying to get into, but I had to give y'all a little context. All right. So culture is in the language. Observation is that reasoning faculty which we employ to gather information or knowledge. It is the act or the power of seeing or fixing the mind upon something for sake of analysis and study. This usually involves using the senses and gathering information or facts, noting occurrences, consistencies, inconsistencies, and other phenomena. Knowledge acquired is thereafter used to draw conclusions or to set such information or occurrences to the record for present and future use. For your consideration and observation, we will reflect upon the long-lived, endearing, and high development-oriented linguistic phrase, culture is in the language. Okay? All right. So speaking of just backing up, talking about this pedagogy, right? So for those that know, you know what I mean? We're supposed to share, we're supposed to teach, each one teach one. All right. But in doing that, right, we're not teaching people BS. We teaching them the truth. We're dealing with the facts. All right. And realize and understand that when you're talking about the pedagogy as we know it in modern times, it is the university system, right? Loosely based on the trivium and the quadrivium, right? Which is together known as the 7 liberal arts, right? And if you're studying those basics, you'll be able to apply said information and knowledge to everything else in life and be able to figure something out and, in a logical manner. And when we say cultures in the language, truly, it is it's something that you have to keep in mind as you're studying and you're learning about different cultures, different time periods and things of that sort. So when you're going back and you're looking at these things, and you're reading things from that time period, you will be able to develop more information and more insight on what's going on if you're paying attention to the language and the words that people are using, right? Moreover, if you apply your Edamon degree, you can not only, look at what's going on then, but then also trace it back to where it came from and get a firm understanding and overstanding of what it is that's being said or being talked about, right? Beyond just what, is on the surface being presented. So moving forward, this impacting phrase, still on page 11, this impacting phrase is not necessarily an unheard of cliche and has been intermittently stated or heard among even the suppressed and colorably branded natural peoples of North America and abroad. Yet, for the most part, on too large a scale, the natural people seem not to have taken to heart the serious nature of this linguistic phrase or of its being of prime social and civil importance. This misdirection anomaly of civil causelessness or casualness also looms like a dark cloud over many oppressed aboriginals among the other geographical jurisdictions, landscapes of America, Central America, South, and the Americana, the adjoining islands. Nevertheless, the Americans of Central, South, and our adjoining islands do not appear as civilly dead as the branded indigenes of North America, who have been held most wrongfully and jealously under a foreign, de facto, and racketeering government of fraud, which has been bolstered by colorable demo miseducation and forced servitude, right? And let me just be frank with y'all, right? It seems like ever since we tried to do a certain demonstration and y'all had the Jack Boys come in and play their little game and stuff, they intentionally gave y'all false words, weak language, okay, and zero definitions. All right, intentionally to divert the people and to get y'all, like y'all looking today, lost in the sauce, confused, and everybody's using different verbiage and different words, not overstanding, not studying, not knowing what you're saying, and what you're implying is that you're an agent at this point, or that you've been compromised just based off your language. All right. And as a people, we all over the place and we have no unity in the community because our language, our culture has been separated. It's not gone. It's not totally obliterated, but it's separated and it's been fractured. All right. As we do more of this, and as I, do more of this, we're going to get that cleared up. And I'm going to try to be the best example that I can be for you all, as I demonstrate and as I move forward. But honestly, and it's sad, but part of what we've been talking about and part of what I've often heard is that we have to dumb it down so people can relate, so they can get it. But at some point we got to lift it back up and smarten it back up, because in dumbing it down, we lose the root meanings and the basis of the culture by misconstruing the language. All right. And when we allow ourselves to use weak language and weak information and present it as if it is what it's supposed to be, which is de jure, when it's in fact de facto, we are weakening ourselves in our own position. We are weakening our own knowledge of understanding, our own knowledge of self, and creating more confusion than we are clearing up and making a connection with people. And so that's part of why I went silent and went quiet with a lot of stuff, because I could not, drive myself to be that stupid. Like I just couldn't, right? It seems blasphemous to me at the end of the day. Like it really does feel that way when I have to lower my standard of speech to communicate with someone who's not trying to elevate themselves. They just want to, milk and bilk and go on about their business. But if you're trying to nation build, if you're trying to uplift fallen humanity, we got to get the culture right. Culture's in the language. All right, y'all overstanding me. We have to raise the bar. We cannot lower it. We're already classified as Negroes, blacks, and colors. We already are denationalized. How much lower do we need to go? Like, honestly and truly, it's mind-boggling that we even fix our mouths to say these things, but it's a reality nonetheless. You know, it is something that we have to consider. But to what degree? Islam, to what degree do we, you know, put ourselves in this position? To what degree do we limit ourselves when we do these things? How much time do we waste explaining things that eventually are going to, you know what I mean? They're going to pass away. All right. So, and I didn't mean to get on that tangent, but I really feel like that's part of the confusion and part of the loss. It's like, it's not, we're not going to win by doing less. You know what I mean? We're not going to win by thinking less of ourselves or what it is that we're doing. We're not going to win like that. You know what I mean? Like I was talking about in the last class, you know, we have to come together as one and be around each other to correct these things. Each one teach one, right? Because nobody has it all. You know what I mean? Nobody has all the answers. But if we come together and I put my notes together with your notes and his notes and her notes, then we can get some overstanding and some understanding on some things, right? Then, you know, we can see eye to eye and deal with each other on the square, right? So let's keep it moving. With that being said, and so on page 12, right? Still in Worship the Speller. And so other questions arise, such as how do we get back to that higher state of mind, right? Follow me now. Or how do we actualize the reference points of rational thinking and apply the wisdom-based social concepts of our foremothers and forefathers? What can we do when we have lost so many key reference points due to the Demo Inquisition colonization? One way is to awaken the cellular memory by the introduction of hidden history. Another way to awaken is learning the vital etymology keys in grammatication and the utilization of proper denotation consciousness, pardon me, and apply these to the reading process. Let me back and read it again. And so other questions arise, such as how do we get back to that high state of mind? Or how do we actualize the reference points of rational thinking and apply the wisdom-based social concepts of our foremothers and forefathers? What can we do when we have lost so many key reference points due to the Demo Inquisition colonization? One way is to awaken the cellular memory, or our cellular memory, right? Awaken it. Hold on. Where am I? Cellular memory by the introduction of hidden history. Another way to awaken is learning of the vital etymology keys in grammatication and the utilization of proper denotation consciousness, and apply these to the reading processes. So now when we talk about awakening the cellular memory, right, with hidden history, let's get into that. All right, so we back. I was gonna go somewhere else, but hey, we got this right here. Nation Knows No Color Line, J.A. Rogers. I'm on page 58, right? I'm on page 58. Y'all follow me if you got it, right? So in the 9th century, the Moors, who were to be aided greatly by other Islamic peoples as far east as Egypt and Arabia, whose armies from the days of the pharaohs were predominantly black or dark mulatto. As for the Muslim Empire, when it stretched from Baghdad to Portugal, on both shores of the Mediterranean, it was as Cain rightly calls it, or Cain, as Cain rightly calls it, Negroid. Of course, it had a large percentage of whites too, but so great was the number of Zingis, or unmixed Negroes, in the armies that in 870 AD, when Islam was at the height of its power, the blacks revolted and held Baghdad, capital of the world's then mightiest empire, for 14 years. In 871, their Negro general, Mohallabib, Mahalabi, pardon me, Mahalabi seized Basra, rich city, famous in the Arabian Nights, and made slaves and concubines of the white women and children. During the Crusades, 1096 to 1270, so many Negroes were taken out of Ethiopia and Sudan to fight the white Christian invader that in 1196, Negro troops in Egypt, quote, 50,000 strong, dominated the court and the armies. Y'all hear that? An army of quote unquote alleged Negroes, but we talking about the Moors, right? Notice the time period. This was written 19 copyright. Hold on. Copyright 1952, renewed 1980. So 1950s, they were still talking Negro black color stuff. All right, so y'all just follow along. All right, 50,000 strong, dominated. So let me back up. During the Crusades, so we talking about 1096 to 1270, so many Negroes were taken out of Ethiopia and the Sudan to fight the white Christian invader that in 1196, Negro troops in Egypt, 50,000 strong, dominated the court and the armies. The marshal of the palace, a Negro eunuch, the Maltaman Halefe, their protector, was one of the most powerful men in the empire. Ibn Alatir, Muslim writer of the time, says the revolting Negroes made the streets of Cairo run blood for days. So they killed so many Christians that it was literally, the streets were filled with blood and flowing with blood for days, okay? General Mangin, in an article on the role of Negro troops in Europe, tells of the important part they played in the conquest and development of Spain, especially under Abderrahman the First, or Abderrahman the First, 757 to 787, pardon me. 757 to 787 was when he ruled or lived, who founded the independent kingdom of Cordova. All right. This caliphate flourished, he said, quote, until black contingents disappeared from the army. But a rival Moorish leader brought from Africa a great number of Negroes, from which he formed a redoubtable regiment of cavalry of 1,016 and restored it. Incidentally, Franco repeated this with Moorish troops in 1936. After the invasion of 711 came other waves of Moors, probably even darker. In 1086, Yusuf bin Takfin, who is described as dark and woolly-haired and was probably a Nigerian, brought in an army composed largely of pure Negroes, quote unquote, and defeated a much superior white Christian force at Zalaca, Spain. Another, Yaqub el-Mansur, definitely recorded as, quote, the son of a Negro woman, invaded the peninsula in 1194 and made himself master of almost the whole of it. The guards of these Moorish kings were gigantic Negroes. The guards of these Moorish kings were gigantic Negroes, jet black and of immense strength, recruited from the Atlantis, Timbuktu, they spelled it Timbuktu instead of Timbuktu, and Nigeria. Moorish sultans, whose fathers might be of any hue from black to white, were sometimes the sons of white Christian mothers captured on the ships or the coast of Western Europe, including the British Isles. Among such are Abi el-Ola, Muhammad Ab el-Ohad, and Abu Debus. Female slaves with faultless complexions and golden hair were imported from Sweden and Finland and Greek and Circassia, or Circassia, depending on how you want to say that, right? Beauties as dancers, So Circassian beauties as dancers, singers, and wives. So Moors was importing they old phase from Sweden, Finland, Greece, and Saracen, or the Saracens. And we're gonna look up what that's at in a second. So beauties as dancers, singers, and wives. So they had them in there as dancers, singers, and wives, right? And y'all know about the Moorish harems. Y'all know what was going down. But anyway, for 8 centuries, shapely black women from Ethiopia and West Africa were brought in for the same purposes. White French slaves were also sold in numbers to the Moors by Jews with royal permission. They used Bordeaux as a slave port, and it's Bordeaux, Bordeaux, as a slave port. Arnold thinks that most of the Islamic slaves came from the Slavic peoples, or Slavonic peoples. This is where the term slave comes from, right? It was not until 1560, when Moorish power waned, that black women by Christian edicts ceased to arrive in Spain from Muslim harems. The Christians, however, for 2 centuries later, continued the importation of blacks. The favorite wife of Yusuf ibn Takfin, already mentioned, was a white Christian captive. Fada el-Hassan, perfection of beauty, she was the mother of his frizzly-haired son and successor Ali. Alfonso VI, white Christian king who was so often been by Yusuf, took a Moorish wife, the lovely Zayda, who was the mother of his favorite son, Sancho. Quote, Abdul Aziz ibn Musa says, Freyre, quote, not only wedded the widow of King Roderick, but also took many Christian virgins for his concubines. On the other hand, Ramira II of Leon, fascinated by the beauty of a Saracen maid of noble lineage, undoubtedly one of those who later became enchanted Moorish damsels, slew his legitimate wife and married the exotic creature by whom he had numerous progeny. So this man, if y'all caught that, Abdul Aziz ibn Musa says Foray not only wedded the widow of King Roderick, but took many Christian virgins for his concubines. Let me reiterate that. He took many Christian virgins as his concubines. On the other hand, Ramira II of Leon, fascinated by the beauty of a Saracen maid of noble lineage, undoubtedly one of those who later became enchanted, quote, enchanted Moorish damsels, slew his legitimate wife, meaning he you know what I mean? He knocked off and then married the exotic creature by whom he had numerous progeny. So he married the man, you know what I mean? Slimed her out and then got with the maid who was of noble lineage, right? And I'm gonna just stop right there for a second, because it just it goes too deep, you know what I mean? I don't want nobody to say nothing too crazy, you know what I mean? We're gonna say that for the matter of fact, I'm gonna talk about it and we're gonna put it on the paid side of the channel, and on, you know, you can see it on Violent Obsidian if you join there. But you know what I mean? I'm gonna edit this part out and then put it in on the part 2. So we're gonna keep going for right now though. All right. For all those that's watching right now, then thank you. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for donating. Thank you for, you know what I mean, supporting. We're gonna get into this real spiel. You know what I mean? I'm gonna keep it classy though. All right. So Sancho VIII, King Christian, wished to marry one of the daughters of Yaqub el-Mansur, whose mother, as was said, was a Negro, but Yaqub declined. Abu Hassan Ali, quote, the Black Sultan, whose mother was also a Negro slave, had his favorite wife, Shams ed Dua, the morning sun, a beautiful white captive. Of the three Moorish kings killed in the Battle of Alcazar in 1578, 2 were mulattoes and 1 an unmixed Negro, Malay Muhammad, quote, the Negro. The whites thought marriage with the Moors an honor. Moors were then the foremost power in Europe. They were the conquerors and the whites the conquered. In such a case, says Roy Nash, quote, it would be an honor for the white to mate or marry with the governing class. So realize at this time, Moors, who are now classified, who we now consider to be Negroes, blacks, and coloreds, then were considered Moors. And according to these Europeans at their time, right? If we look at what they talking about from their time period, they were saying that at that time, in those days, it was an honor. It was an honor to be chosen. It was an honor to be married or wed to. It was an honor to be, to carry the child of a Moor. All right? Because to some degree, as you can see, we were in rulership. We were the controlling class of people that was running Europe, not just the world, but for those who think that, this whole thing that's going on with Trump and everything is something new, like it's not. What they're trying to do right now is fight. They're trying to push forward this eugenics movement stuff, but they're really fighting genetics, period. They're fighting themselves, all right? Much how a lot of us, are at war with ourselves in our minds when we're walking around speaking all of this in, I would say, de facto language, just to keep it funky. We are here walking around with the body and the skin of an Aboriginal indigenous person, but with the mind of a colonist, with the mind of a slave owner. You know what I mean? I'm a colonist, a colonialist, all right? A foreigner, right? But let me get this thing set up because I don't want to go, check this out. If you don't have it, get it in your library. Nation Knows No Color Line, J.A. Rogers, right? We're going to come back to that, right? So let me get this thing set up so we can really get into some history, right? Because I'm finna get this treaty broke down for y'all real quick, and we're gonna talk about some things, all right? So follow me, stay tuned. There's Lon, so we back. So we got the Romanus Pontifex, right? The Bull Romanus Pontifex by Nicholas V, January 8th, 1455. Background: the kingdoms of Portugal and Castile had been jockeying for position and possession of colonial territories along the African coast for more than a century prior to Columbus's quote-unquote discovery of lands in the Western Seas. On the theory that the Pope was an arbiter or arbitrator between nations, each kingdom had sought and obtained papal bulls at various times to bolster its claims on the grounds that its activities served to spread Christianity, right? Now, let me back up and show y'all. Hold on. All right, so we're looking at the history of the Moorish Empire. I'm on page 67, right? It says, the spirit of persecution incomprehensible to the polytheists, the essence of whose creed was universal toleration, and who could not appreciate the motives impelling the Christian to the employment of force to establish his doctrines, had early begun to manifest itself. Monasticism, synonymous with ignorance and intolerance, represented the sentiments and hopes of the most degraded of the populace in every community of the empire. At Alexandria and Nicaea, it had forced, by weight of numbers and by turbulent demonstrations of violence, the adoption of some of the most important articles of Christian faith. In every ecclesiastical feud, it had invariably espoused the cause of bigotry and imposture. All right. So with that in mind, right? The bull Romanus Pontifex is an important example of the papacy's claim to spiritual lordship over the whole world, and of its role in regulating relations among Christian princes and between Christians and unbelievers, heathens and infidels. This bull became the basis for Portugal's later claim to lands in the New World, a claim to which was countered by Castile and the bull Antikythera in 1493, right? So let's pull that one. All right, so we're back. The bull Intercatera from Alexander VI, May 4th, 1493. So we read that already. Oh, let me read this again. So Columbus' discovery in 1492 of supposedly Asiatic lands in the Western Seas threatened to unstable the relations between the kingdoms of Portugal and Castile, which had been jockeying for position and possession of colonial territories along the African coast for many years. The King of Portugal asserted that the discovery was within the bounds set forth in papal bulls of 1455, 1456, and 1479. The King and Queen of Castile disputed this and sought a new papal bull on the subject. Pope Alexander VI, a native of Valencia and a friend of the Castilian king, responded with 3 bulls dated May 3rd and 4th, which were highly favorable to Castile. The third of these bulls, the bull Intercatera, is reproduced below in an English translation, published in European treaties bearing on the history of the United States and its dependencies to 1648. Francis Gardner Davenport, editor, Carnegie Institution of Washington, 1917, Washington, D.C., at pages 75 to 78. The original text in Latin is in the same volume at page 72 to 75, all right? Though later bullas were issued on the subject of the Portuguese and Spanish colonial rivalry, the bull Intercatera became a major document in the development of subsequent legal doctrines regarding claims of empire in the New World. The bull assigned to Castile the exclusive right to acquire territory, to trade in, or even to approach the lands lying west of the meridian, situated 100 leagues west of the Azores and Cape Verde Islands. An exception was made, however, for any lands actually possessed by any other Christian prince beyond this meridian prior to Christmas 1492. All right? So let's jump into some of it. You know what I mean? If it's too much, then, you know, you can turn it off, or, you know what I mean, I'm gonna save it and put it in the page section, or you can check it out on Valley Obsidian, all right? So Alexander, bishop, servant of the servants of God, to the illustrious sovereigns, under our dear son in Christ, Ferdinand, king, and our very dear daughter in Christ, Isabella, queen of Castile. So King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, right? Who the ones who commissioned and paid for your boy Columbus to get those ships, right? Queen of Castile, Leon, Aragon, Sicily, and Granada. Health and apostolic benediction. Among other works, well-pleasing to the divine majesty and cherished of our heart, this assuredly ranks highest, that in our times, especially the Catholic faith and the Christian religion, be exalted and be everywhere increased and spread, that the health of souls be cared for, and that the barbarous nations be overthrown and brought to the faith itself. Wherefore, inasmuch as by the favor of divine clemency, we, though of insufficient merits, have been called to the holy see of Peter, recognizing that as true Catholic kings and princes, such as we have known you always to be, and as your illustrious deeds already known to almost the whole world declare, you not only eagerly desire, but with every effort, zeal, and diligence, without regard to hardships, expenses, dangers, with the shedding even of your blood, are laboring to that end, recognizing also that you have long since dedicated to this purpose your whole soul and all your endeavors, as witnessed in these times with so much glory to the divine name in your recovery of the kingdom of Granada from the yoke of the Saracens. So right then and there, they're telling you, under the guise of religion, they are pledging themselves to remove the Saracens, which is another name for the Moors, all right, from their claim of dominion, all right? We therefore are rightly led and hold it as our duty to grant you, even of our own accord and in your favor, those things whereby with effort each day more hearty, you may be enabled for the honor of God himself and the spread of the Christian rule to carry forward your holy and praiseworthy purpose, so pleasing to immortal God. See how they gassing them up. We have indeed learned that you, who for a long time had intended to seek out and discover certain islands and mainlands remote and unknown and not hitherto discovered by others, to that end that you might bring to the worship of our Redeemer and the profession of the Catholic faith their residents and inhabitants, having been up to the present time greatly engaged in the siege and recovery of the kingdom itself of Granada, were unable to accomplish this holy and praiseworthy purpose. But the said kingdom having at length been reigned or regained as was pleasing to the Lord, you, with the wish to fulfill your desire, chose and our beloved son, Christopher Columbus, a man assuredly worthy and of the highest recommendations and fitted for so great an undertaking. If you know just how much bullshit that they're really talking right now, right? Because you've got a people who are claiming and literally created a de facto religion out of a religion that was already present under the name of Tawahado. But now, after the Decree of Nicaea and all this bloodshed, it's known as Christianity or Catholic system or the system of the Holy Cat, right? And if you really know, they got all of that because of the Greco-Roman Ptolemy period, right? Where they were amongst the Moors and amongst the master teachers in the various schools trying to learn, the ancient mystery school systems. And in their eyes, they thought they was trying to learn how to be a god, right? So this whole setup being de facto coming off of de jure demonstrations, off of a de jure reality that we already had going for thousands of years prior to these Europeans even being thought of or being brought back out of them caves. They really full of themselves off of a lie. And I just wanted to show y'all this because the same way they pumping each other up back then is the same way they pumping each other up right now for the same BS, right? For the same nonsense, for the same basically crusade, right? To kill, rob, kill, murder, and destroy. Going back, let's back up for a second, right? Let's back to these one-on-ones, right? So what, 73? What does the lower self breed? Hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. So this is how they operate amongst each other. But this is the mentality that they have gotten us as Moors to take on to literally destroy ourselves, right? So let me bring it back. Let's bring it back. Hold on. All right, so we back. So now let's transition. Hold on. That wasn't big enough. Let's do this. All right. So to all persons. So treaty, peace, and friendship, 1787 between Morocco and the United States. To all persons to whom these presents shall come or be made known, whereas the United States of America in Congress assembled by their commission, bearing date the 12th day of May, 1784, thought proper to constitute John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson their ministers plenipotentiary, giving to them, or a majority of them, full powers to confer, treat, negotiate with the ambassador, minister, or commissioner of His Majesty, the Emperor of Morocco, concerning a treaty of amity and commerce, to make and receive propositions for such treaty, and to conclude and sign the same, transmitting to the United States and Congress assembled for their final ratification. And by one other commission bearing the date of the 11th day of March, 1785, did further empower the said ministers plenipotentiary of a majority of them by writing under the hands and seal to appoint such agent in the said business as they might think proper with the authority under the directions and instruction of the said ministers to commence and prosecute the said negotiations and conferences for the said treaty, provided that the said treaty should be signed by ministers. And whereas we, the said John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, two of the said ministers plenipotentiary, the said Benjamin Franklin being absent, by writing under the hand and seal of the said John Adams at London, October 5th, 1785, and of the said Thomas Jefferson at Paris, October the 11th of the same, October 11th of the same year, did appoint Thomas Barclay, agent in the business, aforesaid, giving him the powers therein, which by the said second commission we were authorized go give, and the said Thomas Barclay, in pursuance thereof, Bath arrange articles for hath arranged articles for a treaty of amity and commerce between the United States of America and His Majesty the Emperor of Morocco, and sealed with his royal seal, being translated into the language of said United States of America, together with the attestations thereto annexed, are the following words, to wit. All right, let's back up so I can get more on the screen. It's long, so we back. So y'all should be able to see the treaty up there, right? So Article 1, it says, we declare that both parties have agreed that this treaty, consisting of 25 articles, shall be inserted in this book and delivered to the Honorable Thomas Barclay, the agent of the United States, now at our court, with whose approbation it has been made, and who is duly authorized on their part to treat with us concerning all matters contained therein. All right, hold on. All right, Article 2. If either of the parties shall be at war with any other nation, whatever, the other party shall not take a commission from the enemy nor fight under their colors. All right. Not supposed to be fighting on none of their battles. You're not supposed to be joining their military. Moors. That's why Hexef got up there and showed his ass and kicked, basically ran everybody off like he did and made all them generals quit, because they know that they in violation by even having y'all in there. Let's just start right there. Y'all ain't even supposed to be mixing with they kind like that. We are two separate nations, people. And at one point, we were in charge of things, and we're coming back to that. Slowly, but, quick. I ain't gonna say slowly but surely, but as sure as the sun does rise, we going back to that. But let me back up and talk about these parties for a second, right? So I'm in Black's Law Dictionary right now. Hopefully y'all can see me. I'm in the corner right now and all that good stuff. But yeah, parties. The persons who take part in the performance of any act, or who are directly interested in any affair, contract, or conveyance, or who are actively concerned in the prosecution, and defense of any legal proceeding. So as Moors, when we declare our nationality and claim our birthrights, and we acknowledge this treaty, we become parties. We become parties to this matter. In any proceeding dealing with it, we have a reason and a way to speak to it. We have a basis for it, legally, lawfully. All right? Just going on to read, it says, in the Roman civil law, the parties were designated as actor and reus. In the common law, they are called plaintiff and defendant. In real actions, demanded and tenant. In equity, complainant or plaintiff and defendant. In Scotch law, pursuer and defender. In admiralty practice, libelant and respondent. In appeals, appellant and respondent. Sometimes plaintiff in error and defendant in error. In criminal proceedings, prosecutor and prisoner. right? Then it goes on to say classification. Formal or proper parties are those who have no interest in the controversy between the immediate litigants, but have an interest in the subject matter, which may be conveniently settled in the suit and thereby prevent further litigation. They may be made parties or not at the option of the complainant, right? And this is why as more is, kind of getting advanced, and I might have to put this on the other end, but it's like when we writing writs and we're enjoining other defendants because they're parties to the matter, even though they're not formally directed, they're informally, a part of the matter because based on the chain of command that they're claiming to be, when they're claiming to be government, that's what we're dealing with. So all from whoever the first person is, all the way up to their superior, to their superior, to their superior, to their superior, all the way up to the governor, or if it's federal, to the president, or whatever, whoever's over that office. That's how you need to be writing these writs. That's how you need to be attacking these folks, right? And bringing all of them to bear based upon their charge and their claim of authority over your estate, right? Because if they're claiming to be parties to this Constitution, they're a party to this treaty. If they're a party to this treaty, they fall into Article 6, right? So all enemies, foreign and domestic, got to be dealt with by the law. Islam. So let's not get it twisted, all right? If they want to be parties, if they want to claim to have some rights and authority over your estate, then you hold them to it, right? So let's get into this for a second. Hold on. All right, before I move forward, I just want to make sure we cover this, right? So going through this, it says, thus, I'm jumping down in the definition. I'm on page 1276 of Black's Law, 4th edition. All right. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Right. Thus, it is said that the Supreme Court of the United States divides parties in equity suits into 3 different classes. 1, formal parties who have no interest in the controversy between the immediate litigants, but have such an interest in the subject matter as may be conveniently settled in the suit and thereby prevent further litigation. 2, necessary parties who have an interest in the controversy, but whose interests are separable from those of the parties before the court and will not be directly affected by a decree which does not complete and full justice between them. 3, indispensable parties who not only have an interest in the subject matter of the controversy, but an interest of such a nature that a final decree cannot be made without either affecting their interest or leaving the controversy in such a condition that its final determination may be wholly inconsistent with equity and good conscience. Islam. So when they're doing these extrajudicial proceedings outside the presence of said indispensable parties, nothing that they come up with can be enforced or adjudicated upon because you did it outside of the guise of a necessary party, right? But if you're thinking that you're a formal party, or you're thinking that you're not necessary, that you're not even a party to this treaty, i.e. the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and they're playing their Negro games on you, trying to railroad you, and you're not bringing them to task and bringing clarity to the situation as to who's who and what everybody's interests are, they just gonna railroad you and present it however they want to and let you think that that's what it is, right? But you got to be smart enough and knowledgeable enough to understand when a fraud is being presented to you and pushed upon you and deal with it as such, a fraud. All right. So let's get into that 1 second. Hold on. All right. So we back. So fraud. I'm on page 788. Fraud, an intentional perversion of truth for the purpose of inducing another in reliance upon it to part with some valuable thing belonging to him or to surrender a legal right. A false representation of a matter of fact, whether by words or by conduct, by false or misleading allegations, or by concealment of that which should have been disclosed, which deceives and is intended to deceive another so that he shall act upon it to his legal injury, right? So capping to a degree could rise to a level of fraud, right? Lying to someone, deceiving them so you can snake them out, so you can, take something of value from them. That could rise to a level of fraud. And there could be a legal or lawful, recompense behind that. So it behooves one to deal in truth. It behooves one to deal in good character and good principles, right? Operating on love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. But a fool will attempt to defraud someone or will outright defraud someone and think that there is no remedy or recourse to deal with that. All right? Realize and understand, though, there's no statute of limitations for fraud. All right? So when they denationalize you and they call you Negro, Black, and Colored, call you Smith, Jones, and Johnson, and you've demonstrated that you are an ill or a bay, they are denationalize you and committing a fraud upon your name, Moor. All right? And sister, if you do not protect your children, or if you allow others to disinherit your children by placing Christian names upon them, by placing their Inquisition ordinances upon them, and you don't correct their status or correct anyone upon whom they are, you are a complicit party to the fraud. Islam. Same thing with the fathers. If you are trying to place a Christian name upon a Moorish child, and you're not giving them their birthright back by placing that ill or bay on there, you too, father, are committing a fraud upon your children. Islam. And ultimately defrauding yourself and your lineage, because that's your bloodline at that point. But that's, it might be getting too deep. But let's jump over 789. Specifically says fraud in treaty arises where a person is induced by some fraudulent representation or pretense to execute the very instrument intended to be executed, but under a misrepresentation as to the contents thereof, right? So that's why I'm reading this to you. That's why I'm putting this treaty in front of you, because these are the contents that they're defrauding you of, right? That you don't even know that you have. You don't even know you got access to. But let's not forget, all right? Operating as a Negro, Black, and Colored person, operating as a Black person, and the Black and the proud, and all of that BS denationalizes you at your hand. You did it to yourself at that point, right? It ain't what they call you, it's what you answer to. All right. So if you answering the Negro, you answering the Black, you answering the Colored, you answering the African American, you're defrauding yourself. Islam. You cutting yourself out. Ain't nobody else did that to you. You did it to yourself. But they, through the culture, the culture being in language, we lose these things when we allow ourselves to use loose language and loose terms. When we stop identifying ourselves based upon de jure instead of de facto terms, we don't do the edamame on what we saying, or entirely, like this new generation, we just making up shit as we go along. Then you completely remove yourself from reality. Now you're really a cardboard box. All right. Now you're really a corporate personage that they can just do whatever they want to with when you play those types of games. Islam. But we have to get back to our de jure Aboriginal and Indigenous mindset. Like the prophet said, go back to that ancient mindset of your most ancient foremothers and forefathers. Islam. So let's keep going. All right. Oh man. Now this is important. Article 18. All goods shall be weighed and examined before they are sent on board. And to avoid all detention of vessels, no examination shall afterwards be made, unless it shall be first proved by that prove that contraband goods have been sent on board, in which case the persons who took the contraband goods on board shall be punished according to the usage and custom of the country, and no other person whatever shall be injured, nor shall the ship or cargo incur any penalty or damage whatever, right? But let's pay attention now, because before they swing it another way, Article 19, no vessel shall be detained in port on any pretense whatever, nor be obliged or obligated to take on board on any articles without the consent of the commander, who shall be at full liberty to agree for the freight of any goods he takes on board, right? Just think registration, licenses, right? These are other goods that you seemingly are forced to take on board of your vessel, of your private conveyance, just to operate, just to navigate. And when they're pulling you over, realize that they're trying to pull you to port, but there's not supposed to be any search of your vessel, of your conveyance. They're not supposed to be searching nothing. That's why you got to fly your flags, Moors. Set the jurisdiction ahead of time. Establish yourself by nationality and birthright and by your divine creed. Islam, establish yourself through that name correction and judicial proclamation and putting it on the record publicly for the world to see, Craig. All right, Article 21, if any citizen of the United States shall kill or wound a Moor, or on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place, and equal justice shall be rendered. The consul assisting at the trial, and if any delinquent shall make his escape, the consul should not be answerable for him in any manner whatever. Right? Now, this is important, talking about trust in a state, right? Article 22, if any American citizen shall die in our country and no will shall appear, the consul shall take possession of his effects. And if there shall be no consul, the effects shall be deposed or deposited in the hands of some person worthy of trust. Peep the language, worthy of trust, until the party shall appear who has right to demand them. But if the heir to the person deceased be present, the property shall be delivered to him without interruptions. And if a will shall appear, the property shall descend agreeable to that will as soon as the consul shall declare the validity thereof. Islam. So what are we talking about, Nagi? What we talking about, Nagi? We talking about trust in the state. All right. And this is a very important point. All right. To be in heirship, you have to honor thy mother and thy father. To be in heirship, to be in receivership for an estate, it's got to match. It's got to match. It's a simple matching game. But now we're talking about descendancy over generations, right? We're talking about the defrauding of a people by misclassifying them over said generations, right? Removing them legally, mentally, but not lawfully from said treaty. And removing the knowledge of said treaty so that those Negroes, blacks, and colors that you've now misclassified, who were previously known and are properly classified as Moors, right? Or heirs, Aborigines, descendants, of the natural peoples of the land. You have diverted these people and defrauded them of all of their birthrights, all the land. And mind you, our state, as the prophet said, went from Alaska all the way down to Chile, all up into Canada, all through the adjoining islands. Americana. All right. But let's keep going. Right? A fraud order, a name given to orders issued by the Postmaster General under Rev Statute, subsection 3929, 441, 39 USC A, subsection 259, 732, for preventing the use of the mails as an agency for conducting schemes for obtaining money or property by means of false or fraudulent pretenses, right? So when they send you these things in the mail with the Pitney Bowes, with the Pitney Bowes stamp, rubber stamped, and not an actual stamp, That's mail fraud. And when they claim to be, you know, peoples of authority and things of that stuff, that's mail fraud. And when they're trying to get you to come up off of, you know, the fiat or the checks, and they're not, you know, sending their IRS report in with it, or their IRS information, so you can file that report in with the IRS and whatnot, so they know that something has been taken from your estate, and you ain't balancing, you're not able to balance the books properly and do proper accounting because they're trying to defraud you. That's considered fraud, right? That's fraud on the estate, right? So y'all pay attention. Fraudulent conveyances, statutes of or against. The name given to two celebrated English statutes, the statute made perpetual and the statute made perpetual, okay? And it just goes on and on, man. All these. So one more. Fraudulent representation, a false statement as to material fact made with intent that another rely thereon, which is believed by other party or parties and on which he relies and by which he is induced to act and does act to his injury. And statement is fraudulent if speaker knows statement to be false or if it is made with utter disregard of its truth or falsity. So a lot of folks have been running around making false representations about this science, about life, about what's going on. And y'all don't even realize the violations that y'all making. Y'all don't even realize the trouble that y'all setting yourselves up for. But it's telling because, of course, in life, you get what you get what you put out. You get back what you put out. So if you're putting out fraud and BS, that's why a lot of us are confused and lost in the sauce. Because we don't even realize that we're talking nonsense. We're talking out the side of our neck. And some folks literally out their ass. Excuse my French. But let's keep going, man. I wanna get into some more stuff, man. We on a good roll today. So let me jump right into it. And let me clean up the screen. Hold on. All right, so we back. So right now I'm on page 68 of the MSTA degrees, Moorish Holy Temple of Science. All right. Part 4 questions. This is coming from the proficiency test on page 68. So the Moorish Holy Temples of Science and the Moorish Science Temples of America, inclusive with other humanitarian institutions, derivative of the Moorish Divine and National Movement, have taught and do teach a documented and short history about the early life of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Part of that history gives a recounting of much of his youth being spent with the Cherokee tribe. Some of the questions and answers in part 4 addresses some of the informative and correcting perspectives about so-called American Indians, etc. Part 4 deals with issues about our alleged Moorish Indian heritage. Remember the true history and anthropological truths about the Moorish nation, about their expansive empire, and of their unrivaled navigational skills. Also remember the expansive and all-encompassing efforts made by the colonizing Europeans by way of the Spanish Inquisition to destroy, to hide, to distort, and to suppress that true and magnificent Moorish history and culture. Referred to the Roman Catholic Church bullas, the Pontifex, Romanus Pontifex of 1492 AD, the Indicatura Divina of 1493, and the Indicatura Divina of 1493 AD. The ancient Moors had peopled the entire planet. The four corners of the earth were never foreign to Moorish navigators. As an interjected point for clarification and educational reference, let us review some excerpts from the MAHS Civic and Heritage Lesson Book number 3, Chief Justice Ben Bay. Excerpt from Civic Lessons Book number 3. The Europeans/Romans, in their quest to capture or to intersect the ancient spice trade and commerce routes of the Moors, sailed around Cape Hope with the intent of reaching Madagascar off the coast of Hindustan or India. The Europeans chose the route around Africa due to the fact that the Moors had a long-standing and impregnable fortress and stronghold at Callipay, also called Jebel al-Tariq or Jebel al-Tariq, Mount of Tariq, after a Moorish general. Jebel al-Tariq or Gibraltar is located in the Strait of Gibraltar, separating Europe and from Africa. Granada province was established during the Moorish dynasties known as Almoravids or Almoravids or Almohades or Almohades. It was a Moabite/Moorish oasis fortress and central hub for commerce, culture, arts, science, industry, spirituality, philosophy, and literature, etc. In these days, the modern cities of Almeria and Malaga and sections of Cadiz, and Jaén now occupy the former areas where the grand province of Granada once stood in glorious splendor, architectural beauty, and technical advancement. After a long Roman European siege waged against Granada, the Moors were forced to surrender in January of 1492 AD. This month corresponds with Muharram of the Moorish Mohammedan calendar and Tishri of the Hebrew Yehudi calendar. Granada province began a decline under the reign of Boabdil, and the last stronghold of the Moors in Europe fell to the Christians. The Europeans, under the operative rule of the papacy of Rome and in concert with Ferdinand V and Isabella I, became drunk with wealth and power, seized or escheated from the fallen Moors. Granada was later merged into Castile and was occupied and used as an archiepiscopal see. The Inquisition war machine was proving to be massively profitable for the church and for the Christendom at large. The momentum for Roman colonialization was accelerating quickly, and the historical door of treachery was open for European Christian expansions into Northwest Africa, Amexem, Maghreb al-Aqsa, Morocco, the most extreme west. Now, absent of European reconstructed history, we can see or deduce the true significance of the brutal, sadistic, inhumane, and banal acts of the Inquisitionist soldiers of the cross known as Ponce de Leon and Cristoforo Colombo. They were unerringly carrying out the orders and the will of the papacy, archbishops, and of King Ferdinand V and Queen Isabella I. Right? And let me just pause for the call right there and just talk about the fact, again, the same modes of operation, the same thoughts and the same ideas and ideals of then are being presented and projected now. All right. And let me just switch it up and get into one of my other favorite docs. The King Alfred Plan, provided for Executive Order 11490, October 19th, 1969. It says this executive order was authorized October of 1969 to counteract the minority, and in parentheses it says blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites in their rise from up under the depression and powers that be. All right. And this, again, why these domestic terrorists known as ICE are running around and like so many Caucasians are surprised attacking poor whites along with every other minority. Why? Because we're at a time period now where as they know and realize that their time is waning out and their time in control is grinding to a close, right? As we know and see this happening, they're fighting to save themselves as best they can, be it through, interbreeding with themselves and trying to keep that going that way. Be it with trying to expel folks and kick them out based on the auspices of immigration, even though, we've long had a long history of immigration and slave labor. And oddly enough, they thought in the Midwest that they was going to get rid of all the Hispanics and other, minorities that were doing the manual labor. And some people actually fixed their mouths and said they thought that the Moors was going to come back and be slaves again and work the fields and shit. Not realizing we was slave masters too. Y'all getting it twisted. Don't forget. All right. Now, something really important that I want to get into and just show y'all, right? This part right here where it's talking about the fascists, which is this thing right here. This, you could say it's a battle axe, what have you. right? The fascists in Rome, bundles of elm or birch rods from which the head of an axe projected, fastened together on by a red strap as the emblem of official authority. They were carried by the lictors in the left hand and on the left shoulder before the higher Roman magistrates at the funeral of a magistrate behind the bearer, right, or bier. The lictors and the fasces were so inseparably connected that they came to be used as synonymous terms. The fasces represented the power over life and limb possessed by the kings. Later, the consuls were preceded by 12 fasces. Within the precincts of the city, the axe was removed in recognition of the right of appeal, provocatio, which is Latin, to the people in a matter of life and death. All right, so let me back up again. Within the precincts of the city, the axe was removed in recognition of the right of appeal to the people in a matter of life and death. Outside of Rome, however, each consul retained the axe. Valerius Publicola established the custom that the fasces should be lowered before the people as the real representatives of sovereignty. Lowering the fasces was also the manner in which an inferior saluted a superior magistrate. A dictator of 24 fasces, including the axe, even within the city. Other magistrates had fasces varying in number, with the exception of the censors who possessing no executive authority, had none. A victorious general who had been saluted imperator by his soldiers had his fasces crowned with laurel or flowers. Under the empire, the laurel was regarded as distinctive of the imperial fasces. In recent years in Italy, the fasces were adopted as an emblem of the fascist party. See fascism, right? And then check on the back of a dime. Let me see if I got some change. Hold on. Got some change in my pocket now. Because it's on the back of a dime, right? That they got this same symbol. Y'all got dimes. Oh, I got number quarters right there. But yeah, y'all check it out. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And the laurel is the set of, I think it's olive leaves that they use. And they place it on the crown. Like if you see some of the images of Caesar and whatnot, he got the laurel across his head. You know, it's like a little U shape. Yeah, same thing. Same difference, right? But let's get into this for a second, because I want to make sure that y'all, we touch bases on this, because of course it seemed like y'all forgot and y'all don't understand where this is coming from and why Moore's been telling y'all not to be out here protesting and stuff and in the street looking crazy, right? So this is the beginning. We on page, I guess it's technically page 372, but it's near the front. So let's get into it. It says memo, national security. Even before 1954, when the Supreme Court of the United States of America declared unconstitutional separate educational and recreational facilities, racial unrest and discord had become very nearly a part of the American way of life. But that way of life was repugnant to most Americans. Since 1954, however, that unrest and discord have broken out into widespread violence, which increasingly have placed the peace and stability of the nation in dire jeopardy. This violence has resulted in loss of life, limb, and property, and has cost the taxpayers of this nation billions of dollars. And the end is not yet in sight. This same violence has raised the tremendously grave question as to whether the races can ever live in peace with each other. Each passing month has brought new intelligence that despite new laws passed to alleviate the condition of the minority is still not satisfied. Demonstrations and rioting have become a part of the familiar scene. Troops have been called out in city after city across the land, and our image as a world leader severely damaged, right? Our enemies press closer, seeking the advantage, possibly at a time during one of these outbreaks of violence. The minority has adopted an almost military posture to gain its objectives, which are not clear to most Americans. Right? It is expected, therefore, that when those objectives are denied, the minority racial war must be considered inevitable. When that emergency comes, we must expect the total involvement of all 22 million members of the minority, men, women, and children. For once this project is launched, its goal is to terminate once and for all the minority threat to the whole of American society, and indeed the free world. Chairman of National Security. Preliminary memo, Department of Interior, under King Alfred, the nation has been divided into 10 regions. See accompanying map. In case of an emergency, minority members will be evacuated from the cities by federalized National Guard units, local and state police, and if necessary by units of the regular armed forces, using public and military transportation, and detained in nearby military installations until a further course of action has been decided. All right. And let me see. All right, so jumping forward, 372. Right, jumping down here, it says preliminary memo. It says this memo is being submitted in lieu of a full report from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That report is now in preparation. There will be many cities where the minority will be able to put into the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage and knows that political asylum will not be available to him in other countries. The greatest concentration of the minority is in the Deep South, the Eastern Seaboard, and the Great Lakes region and the West Coast, right? And where did they say that they just set up the newest, take them finger quotes out, but the newest ICE headquarters or field office is in College Park now, in the South. Same city, same area that they set up this huge police training facility. They was training all these folks at before they did all of this, right? And realized that they had military that came out that was saying that they were getting trained for urban warfare, right? And Trump outright said that basically he was one with the people, all right? And that the people, the quote unquote citizens, needed to be dealt with in so many words. So, I mean, I don't know how you want to look at that, but to me that sounds like genocide, fraud. Because again, if we're going back to the treaty, they're not supposed to be past the ocean. They're not supposed to be past the beaches, for real, truth be told. But we know they made some backroom deals with the local, chiefs and whatnot, and they finessed them and slimed them out too, in the end, as they say. So what are we really dealing with right now? Okay, all right, so let's back up. Let's back up for a second, hold on. So here we go. So looking at page 21, all right, it says time flow relationships and self-destructive oscillations, right? So we got all this stuff going on, and all of us, every time we get to a point of progress and we get ready to go to that next level, they hit us with another distraction, and we get all in a fit, and it's because of how heinous or how crazy the situation is, and we lose focus and get diverted, going left instead of staying right, staying on our square. Staying on charge and on the business, right? So an ideal industry, so this is what it's saying right here under time flow relationships and self-destructive oscillations. So this is what we're dealing with as a people. An ideal industry may be symbolized electronically in various ways. This simplest way is to represent a demand by a voltage and a supply by current. And notice the analogy between electricity here, right? And think about how your energy gets diverted or discharged in certain ways. And then you look up and you wore out and you tired and you ain't got no focus and you have no desire to even fight the good fight anymore, right? This is something me and bro were talking about. This is why, right? Islam to you, and honest to that good moral. This simplest way is to represent a demand by a voltage and a supply by a current. When this is done, the relationship between the two becomes what is called an admittance, which can result from three economic actors. One, hindsight flow. Two, present flow. And three, foresight flow. Foresight flow is the result of that property living entities to cause energy, food, to be stored for a period of low energy. The winter season. So, let me just keep going. All right. It consists of demands made upon an economic system for that period of low energy winter season. In a production industry, it takes several forms, one of which is known as production stock or inventory. In electronic symbology, this specific industry demand, a pure capital industry, is represented by capitance, and the stock or resource is represented by a stored charge. Satisfaction of an industry demand suffers a lag because of the ending effect of inventory properties. Present flow ideally involves no delays. It is, so to speak, input today for output today, a hand-to-mouth flow. In electronic symbology, this specific industry demand, a pure use industry, is represented by a conductance, which is then a simple economic value, a dissipative element, dissipative, so dissipates, dissipative. So a dissipative element. Hindsight flow is known as habit or inertia. In electronics, this phenomena is the characteristic of an inductor. Economic analog equals a pure service industry in which a current flow, economic analog equals flow of money, creates a magnetic field. Economic analog equals active human population, which, if the current money flow begins to diminish, collapsing, war to maintain the current flow of money, energy is needed. Even though it doesn't say that, that's what it's saying to me. Other language alternatives to war as economic inducers or inductors or economic flywheels are an open-minded social welfare program or enormous but fruitful open-ended space program. The problem with stabilizing the economic system is that there is too much demand on account of one, too much greed, and two, too much population. This creates excessive economic inductance, which can only be balanced with economic capitance, true resources or value, e.g. in goods or service. The social welfare program is nothing more than an open-ended credit balance system, which creates a false capital industry to give non-productive people a roof over their heads and food in their stomachs. This can be useful, however, because the recipients become state property in return. Now notice, everybody who's been on state resources, SNAP benefits, welfare, basically social welfare, they're doing away with that. Why? Because they don't need they don't need the state property no more. We got AI and robots coming in the mix. So we don't need your slave labor per se, right? At least that's what they was thinking. Because the recipients become state property in return for their gift, a standing army for the elite. For he who pays the piper picks the tune. Those who got hooked on the economic drug must go to the elite for a fix. In this, the method of introducing large amounts of stabilizing capitance is by borrowing on the future credit of the world. So what they've been doing ever since 2008, they've been kicking the can, never solving the issue of the credit crisis that they created by, hypothecating, right? And then most recently, if you've been paying attention, you saw where the gold and silver markets had a huge reset. They just dropped and lost trillions of dollars out of nowhere. Why do you think that was, right? Because all these silver and gold futures was based on fraud. And people realized like, hey, we ain't even got that much gold and silver on the earth. So how is it even possible, right? How is it even possible to have the prices be so inflated if we don't have the scarcity that we think we have? Let me rephrase that. We've got more gold and silver than we thought we had, right? And then when you add to it, right? We got all these asteroids flying around. You don't think there's any gold or silver possibly on any one of these, right? They even talked about the fact that they found a planet, a whole planet, not just an asteroid, but a whole planet made entirely of diamonds, right? They said if we were ever to capture an asteroid or something like that, it would ruin the entire diamond market. Why? Because they're operating and projecting scarcity, when truly the universe, Earth, and our world, this reality, this third dimension, is truly about abundance, truth be told. But they, again, through colonization, the colonizing of our mind, which, you know what I mean, shout out to my boy Color, we got to decolonize the planet. Starts with your mind, decolonizing your mind. Separate yourself from the BS. Get to right language, get to the de jure. Stop dealing with the de facto. You know what I mean? Study the words, get into that etymon degree, and really understand what it is that you're saying and what it is that we're doing, right? But let me keep going. This is a fourth law of motion. Onset and consists of performing an action and leaving the system before the reflected reaction returns to the point of action. A delayed reaction. The means of surviving the reaction is by changing the system before the reaction can return. The reaction can return. So what is it that they keep doing? They'll shut the government down before it gets to a point that everything is about to collapse and everybody's about to figure everything out. And most recently, it's like, all right, we'll bleed out these Epstein things, you know what I mean, these files, as we get ready to do other stuff, right? And they change the system, they change the rules before it comes back into play based upon the zodiac, right? Before the reaction comes back into play. By this means, politicians become popular in their own time and the public pays for it later. In fact, the measure of such a politician is the delay game. The same thing is achieved by government by printing money beyond the limit of the gross national product. I'm talking about what I'm talking about. Come on now. An economic process called inflation, right? So if we following again what I just said, 2008, Dodd-Frank Act, rescission of Dodd-Frank, back to the bullshit, right? Back to the inflation. And if you look at it, the national deficit and the national debt has gone up, and up. And we keep raising the debt ceiling, meaning we keep printing more fiat to try to keep up with it. But that only causes more inflation, right? And every 4 years, what happens? They cycle out a president, whole new administration. So they are moving, they change the system before the people even realize what the last person even did. And so, so on and so forth. But y'all keep going for it. Y'all keep falling for the same shit, for the same game, lame brain stuff. Because you ain't decolonized. You're not dealing with the de jure. You're dealing with the de facto. Y'all still dealing with that dirty bird over there instead of dealing with your great seal. Dealing with that pyramid. But hey, I digress. All right. This puts a large quantity of money into the hands of the public and maintains a balance against their greed, creates a false self-confidence in them, and for a while stays the wolf from the door. What did they do during the pandemic? They gave out boatloads of money. They gave out boatloads of loans, right? And then we see what that did to the deficit. It pushed us up by trillions. Literally in a matter of months, in a matter of weeks, we was doing this. And it's like it's like now we really starting to see the effects of that. And we're really starting to see it because bricks, right? Then we also starting to see it. We're gonna really feel it in a minute if we ever if like Trump is trying to do, he's trying to get us out of the European Union. If we lose that angle, then everything from Europe, all them foreigns and all that imported goods, all that stuff is gonna jack back up. Anybody that remembers even 15 years ago that, anybody that was overseas for any amount of time or anywhere in Europe and they ever, dealt with the strong euro before the whole Brexit thing happened and all of that stuff, realize, back in the day, they used to say, that euro, you get more, you know what I mean? And now, I mean, at one point I think it was less, and now it might be coming back up because, of course, we're on the decline. But I digress again. They must eventually revert to war to balance the account. What are we doing in Venezuela right now? Trying to go to war. Over what? Over the oil. And it's already, I mean, I hinted at it before, but it's become even that much more obvious since the last class, right? You know, they tried to blame it on dope, but it's like, no, we know exactly what y'all doing. We know exactly why y'all doing it, right? Because, and it's a lot in that, but we're gonna unpack that later. But let's keep going. All right, they must eventually revert to war to balance the account, because war ultimately is merely the act of destroying the creditor, and politicians are the publicly hired hitmen that justify the act to keep the responsibility and blood off the public conscience. See section on consent factors and social economic structure. If the people really cared about their fellow man, they would control their appetites, greed, procreation, etc., so that they would not have to operate on a credit or welfare social system, which steals from the workers to satisfy the bum. Since most of the general public will not exercise restraint, there are only two alternatives to reduce the economic inductance system. One, let the populace bludgeon each other to death in war, with which will only result in total destruction of the living earth. Or two, take control of the world by use of economic silent weapons in a form of quiet warfare and reduce the economic inductance of the world to a safe level by a process of benevolent slavery and genocide. And that, my friends, is what we have today in full effect. They showing you and telling you in so many ways, right, that they are trying to push us back to a system of benevolent slavery and outright genocide. And you see them gunning folks down in the street, trying to turn them into justifiable homicides, right? Retroactively, in your face, killing Europeans, killing Moors, killing everybody else, and deporting any and everybody that they don't agree with. And even if you not deportable, they just, hey, we don't have the paperwork, hey, you know what I mean? Ship them out. We'll figure it out later. Why? Why are they doing this? It's a means of survival because they know no other way other than violence. And like I'm saying, all the way back during the papal times, all the way up to now, they only know how to move the needle based upon violence, based upon oppression, based upon slavery and genocide. They don't know how to uplift fallen humanity. They don't know how to save the nations. But we do. We definitely do. No, we do. Believe it or not, we are some of the most benevolent and loving people on this planet. Even though we shouldn't be, we have been. And like the prophet said, we used to feed all the nations, and we will one day feed them again. Okay? So I really wanted to get that on your mental. I ain't gonna say okay, but I'm gonna say, all right. All right. Like, really though. But let me wrap this up real quick and finish this page out. It says the latter option has been taken as the obviously better option. So they said, hey, it's better to enslave y'all and just kill y'all off because y'all ain't gonna get it no way. At this point, it should be crystal clear to the reader why absolute secrecy about the silent weapons is necessary. The general public refuses to improve its own mentality and its faith in its fellow man. It has become a herd of proliferating barbarians and so, to speak, a blight upon the face of the earth. They do not care enough about economic science to learn why they have not been able to avoid war despite religious morality, and their religious or self-gratifying refusal to deal with earthly problems renders the solution of the earthly problems unreachable by them. Who is continuing and promoting war all across the planet? Who's doing it in the quote-unquote Middle East or Northeast Africa? Right? It is left to those few who are willing to think and survive as the fittest to survive, to solve the problems for themselves as the few who really care. Otherwise, exposure exposure of the silent weapon would destroy our only hope of preserving the seed of future true humanity. And again, this is coming from the King Alfred plan, right? Of 1969, or Executive Order 11490, Islam. So, like I said, we got a lot of stuff. I think we covered some ground today. And I do have to, break from this and get back to it, get back to work. But hey, we working, baby. And like I said, if you stayed this long, thank you. Honest to you, Islam. Check me out, of course. Nagi _ill on Instagram. If you want to catch me on the social tip, you know what I mean? It's Wrecked Out Media with a 3 instead of the C. Instead of the E, my bad. Pardon self. So yeah, man, it's a lot we got coming. It's a lot y'all gonna, you're gonna be seeing this face a lot more, in the ethers and such. So y'all just pay attention, man. And like I say, man, it's cheaper to pay attention, bro. So really just follow me, bro. Just follow me, tap in, bro. If you're trying to get, your name correction, judicial proclamation done, we still doing that. You know what I mean? You can check me out at Fez Province or Violet Obsidian for that, or hit me with a message on IG if you want to get in, you just can't get through the website, can't figure it out, whatever. You know what I mean? If you just want a quick way to access me, hit me up on IG, man. We'll get that going. I don't know if I'm doing cards right now. It's kind of like in the air because we still got the issue going on with the machine and whatnot, but I can still print them. You know what I mean? If you really up the par, I'll give you one and we'll get that done. I won't give it to you, but you know what I mean? We can donate for it. We can get that going. But man, I really need y'all moles to get with me so we can get all that fixed and get it up to date. New merch on the way. Working on that right now as we speak. So keep an eye out for that. Got more literature on the way. All right. So yeah, y'all just stay tuned, man. Y'all stay with me. I'm gonna try to do better about getting these videos out and just doing this on a regular basis. I know I say that every time, but like I'm so serious about this right now, man. Like y'all have been supporting me for so long, and it's like I feel like I ain't been doing y'all justice, man. So we gonna turn up. Y'all, like I said, y'all gonna be seeing more and more videos. I'm gonna try to do a few more shorts. I'm gonna try to do some, some in the field stuff and just give y'all some lives and whatnot so we can really interact in real time. Of course, again, join the Discord, bro. If you really want to tap in for the win and you want to get, you want to stay in tune with everything that's going on, join the Discord. Become a member. Don't just sit in there and be looking crazy like the folks I got in there now. Like, I don't know who in there. They're not responding. They ain't talking or whatever. I don't know. They ain't, they just got in and visited or whatever. But y'all acting like bots right now, bro. Like, come on, say something, right? But yeah, man, I'm trying to get this thing back going so we can have it with, have everything where we need to be. But I really want y'all to come and join Violet Obsidian because that's gonna be where we chop it up and get to it at a deeper level. You know what I mean? And truth be told, like we've been needing this. It's just been a matter of time, effort, and technology at this point. But I definitely want to show y'all some things, and I want to bring y'all up to speed on some stuff. But I can't do it on YouTube. You feel me? Like they be hating. I already know. Y'all, if y'all been paying attention, y'all been seeing how they've been taking some of the videos down and stuff. You know what I mean? And suppressing it. So I'm doing the best I can, but I need y'all support, bro. Like we really need that support because I don't, I'm not doing a whole bunch of craziness like everybody else, but we are gonna start offering some more goods and services. So y'all pay attention to that too, right? But we doing this. We out here, man. We outside full time, bro. I'm outside all day, every day, working. You know what I mean? So if y'all want to see me more, y'all want to see more of this, tap in, man. Support. Don't just be no looky-loo. You know what I mean? Leave a comment, share it, subscribe. You know what I mean? Join. These are the things that normally happen, but I don't ask for them on a regular basis. I don't do that. I don't like begging folks. If you don't get it, I ain't gonna press it on you. You know what I mean? It's for the folks got eyes, see, ears to hear. I ain't gonna pressure nobody. Ain't no pressure over here. But I'm just letting you know we moving forward. And we not gonna be, holding on hands or going backwards with this one. We moving forward, Islam. So with that being said, peace and love, man. We're gonna close in the prayer, and we're gonna get up out of here, man. Get back to it. You feel me? So again, 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Feet at a 45. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Ju Ali. Ameen. Islam. So that's it, man. Like, until next time, y'all study up, man. Stay safe, stay dangerous. Stay on your P's and Q's. Don't be no fool. Keep your head on a swivel, man. This is it's go time right now, bro. This is real. This is not for play no more. This is not the introduction no more. All right? We moving forward. Islam. And to all the naysayers and the goofies that's gonna pop up out of nowhere with this one, after I put this out, hey man, dead that shit, bro. Dead that shit right now. Nip it in the bud. Control yourself, bro. Have some self-control, all right? Like, for real. Cause y'all get to talking out y'all neck and talking crazy, and it's like y'all just need y'all meds and to sit the fuck down and take a nap, bro. Stop playing with this, man. This is real life, man. This is really folks' birthrights and heritage behind this. And y'all out here playing games and, you know what I mean, doing fool ass shit, bro. Excuse my language, but y'all full of it. And y'all know y'all full of it. All right, I'm gonna leave it on that, man. Take a laxative or something, bro. Peace.